are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogre Boy, and I'm going to be doing my review for the 2018 movie Ralph Breaks the Internet. In this movie, video game bad guy Ralph and his fellow misfit Vanellope von Schweetz must risk it all by traveling to the World Wide Web in search of a replacement part for Vanellope's video game, Sugar Rush. And way over their heads, Ralph and Vanellope rely on the citizens of the internet and the netizens to help navigate their way, including an interpreter named Yes, who is the head of an algorithm and the heart and soul of a trend-making site called BuzzTube, which is pretty much like a kind of like TikTok or YouTube, where people go to watch videos and stuff. And Ralph is making a bunch of videos trying to earn money to pay for this part for Vanellope's game. A lot of this stuff just does not work, and everything, and I have a lot of negatives with this movie, so I'm going to go with the few positives first to get that stuff out of the way. There's a little bit of stuff I liked about this movie. I think the animation is really good, for the most part. There is some problems with that too, but like all the main characters and original characters are great in here, and everything. I'll talk about the Oh My Disney stuff here in a minute, but like stuff with our main characters, they all look fine and stuff. That they don't look really any different than they did the first one and stuff. The Henry Jackman score is pretty decent. It's not quite as good as the first ones, but it's okay. And there's a couple of funny moments here and there, not very many though. And I'll say Spamley and Nosmore are okay characters. They're not like super welcomed additions that are really just make the or like characters that you can't live without or anything. They're definitely not as good as some characters in other sequels and stuff. They weren't really great, and everything. So that's really about all I have though for positives, because this is possibly the worst animated movie that Disney Animation Studios has ever given us. In fact, I'd actually go as far to say that it is the worst. It takes everything that made the first Wreck-It Ralph great and just totally ruins it. Ralph becomes this ignorant, annoying, toxic man-baby who can't handle being away from Vanellope for 5 seconds. He's like so clingy to her. And I do understand that Ralph never had a friend before and all that. Vanellope was his first friend. I get what they were going with it, but I think that just was totally ruined his character arc from the first movie. He just the first movie he was having trouble accepting that he was a good person. This one he's just annoyingly toxic and everything, and everything. And the friendship that was built up so well in the first movie is just taken down in this movie. Like you see Ralph and Vanellope become great friends in the first one. In this one, they're doing great, acting fine and everything, and then halfway through the movie they go to this game called Slaughter Race when they're on the internet, and that's when the movie really just takes a big turn and everything. Vanellope wants to join this race after being in there for 5 minutes and wants to leave her game and stuff, and Ralph she kind of goes on her own little adventure without Ralph while he's making these videos to save her game and all that and everything, and it just doesn't work for me. And then he tries to call her, and it does the cliche of answering the call and not realizing that the call was answered and stuff, where he could hear the conversation she was having with Gal Gadot's character, and her like explaining that she wants to leave her video game and move to the internet so she can be in Slaughter Race forever, even though she has a glitch and stuff, and that could cause problems and everything. They kind of just ignore all of the rules that were set in the first movie, that if you leave your game and everything, it will run your game and get the game shut down and everything. All of those rules that were made in that first movie are just completely thrown out in this movie. And I absolutely hate Vanellope in this movie. She actually has become one of my most hated characters, because she's gonna do that and everything, and the movie just ignores it. Like they ignore all the rules and world building they set up in that first movie just to have a story where Vanellope goes on her own, because you can't make a guy and a girl be best friends in a movie nowadays and everything. It makes no sense. It's stupid as hell and everything. And the Oh My Disney stuff is so dang weak and lame and everything. It's just Disney pretty much reminding everybody every 5 seconds that, hey, we own this, we own that, we created this, we created that, and everything. This was one of those movies that started that trend, although I think Ready Player One kind of started it earlier that year and everything, but that was a trend that's kind of been going on off and on in Hollywood, where mostly Warner Brothers and Disney do these projects where they remind everybody of stuff that they've created and all that, or stuff that they own and all that. And it just, I don't like it. It's one of those trends in Hollywood that I just absolutely hate. And it feels like it's soulish and cash grabby. They're just trying to get people in because they see the trailer, say, oh look, the Disney princesses are here, let's go see it. And they totally run the princesses. They all don't really act like they should and everything. They try to make these stupid meta jokes and stuff with them and everything, and it does not work. It kind of disrespects the history of the princesses. The animation on them is terrible. All of their computer animated designs look horrible. None of them look right. Even the ones that were originally computer animated, like Anna and Elsa and Moana and Rapunzel, there's something off about every single one of these characters. They all look horrible and everything. And last year, Once Upon a Studio came out, which is a short film from Disney and everything, that brought all of the characters together and everything to have a group photo at the studio to celebrate their 100th anniversary. And I thought that short did what this movie was trying to do so much better and everything. And they kept them in their original animation styles, blended all of the styles. Like, they could have done that and made this a really unique movie and stuff, but the way they pulled it off, it was just horrible. And I hate the way the Disney princesses act in this movie, and the clothes that they're wearing, these PJs and stuff, just hanging out and stuff. They make them wear these PJs just so that they could sell dolls and stuff. And this is a horrible movie, and stuff like that is just what runs it. And then you get them at the end of the movie, after Ralph, at the very end of the movie, Ralph creates this giant version of himself that's compiled of a whole bunch of Ralphs together, and he's like this big giant King Kong sized Ralph and everything, with an insecurity virus and stuff, because he's insecure about his friendship with Vanellope. It's very on the nose, very terribly written. I know what they were going for, but the execution just was horrible and stuff. And Ralph is falling, and all the princesses save him, and they put him in this Snow White dress, and he lands on this bed, and Tiana makes Naveen kiss him and stuff for no reason. There's no reason at all. He's not under a spell or any of that. It's just supposed to be a lame Disney princess reference, and it is so stupid and everything. And it just, there was no point in it. And like, why the hell make Tiana make Naveen kiss Ralph? Like, what was the point of that? That was just stupid and everything. It was supposed to be a funny gag or whatever, but it just was really dumb. Made no sense whatsoever. And everything. And I honestly think having the princesses in this movie hurt it more than anything. And this movie was so heavily marketed on the princesses being in it. But it was terrible. This is just, I hated it. And then there's this awful song when they were trying to parody I Want songs from the princesses and stuff, because the princesses kind of like give her the idea that she should follow her dreams, and that she should sing about her dreams and stuff to make them come true. And she's singing about being in Slaughter Race and stuff, and nobody wants to hear Sarah Silverman sing. The woman sounds like, when she sings, she sounds like a freaking cow dying from AIDS or something. Like, she sounds horrible and everything. Her singing is absolutely god-awful. I'm not a fan of Sarah Silverman anyway. She gets on my nerves really bad. Her voice just gets on my nerves. I tolerated her in the first one. I thought she was really good as Vanellope in the first one, but this one, it felt like she kind of phoned in her voice performance and stuff, and she wasn't good. I will say John C. Reilly is still decent as Ralph and everything, but the way Ralph is written so much, even John C. Reilly, who is one of my favorite actors, could not save it. I thought even bringing him back wasn't enough to make Wreck-It Ralph that great. Ralph Breaks the Internet that great and everything. And there were so many dated pop culture references from the internet that were already dated when the movie came out. And you watch this movie 6 years later, and it's even more dated than it was back then. Like all these different things with Twitter and how much the internet has changed since this movie came out and stuff. It just they just really fumbled the ball with this movie. It is hands down easily the worst movie that Disney Animation Studios has ever made. I'd even go as far to say that I think this might be the worst sequel that they've done too, because this is actually not one of their direct-to-video cheapquels that they did in the 90s and early 2000s. This was a theatrical movie done by the main animation studio, and they freaking screwed it up so bad and everything. And they've never made a sequel that was better than the original anyway. But none of them have ever hit this low and everything. This was just a terrible, terrible movie. And Wreck-It Ralph has so much potential. They could have found other ways to make a good sequel, but really and truly, I don't think that movie needed a sequel. When it first came out, I wanted one, and I that was one of the biggest, dumbest things that I think I've ever wanted a sequel for, is a Wreck-It Ralph sequel, because this movie was horrible. And they were talking about if they do a third one, they might send Ralph and Vanellope into space, which makes no sense. I don't see how it could be worse than this movie, but sending them to space might be a way to make it worse, that's for sure. That's where a lot of franchises go when they are out of ideas and everything. And this movie should have just been out of ideas with the first one, because they totally contradict everything that made the first one great. And you bring back the side characters just to waste them. Fix-It Felix Jr. and Calhoun are in here, and they have a tiny subplot where they're taking care of the girls from Slaughter Race while the game is unplugged and everything. And it's not very well done or written, and they kind of just forget about them, and they show them a couple times off and on throughout the movie, but they don't do anything with them, which kind of sucked too, because I personally would have loved to see a movie where Felix and Ralph were on an adventure together and stuff. And I think if they do make the third movie, they should make that happen and just leave Vanellope out of it. Maybe let her have a small appearance or something, and let it focus on Ralph and the characters in his game and stuff. Like find something good to do with it, but there's not much that they can do. I don't think there really is. This movie just, it could have been so much better. It broke all of the rules of the universe. Vanellope pretty much just goes turbo by the end of the movie with no consequences whatsoever, and it did not work for me. I did not like this movie at all and everything. So I'm going to go as far to say that I'm going to give the movie a 1.5 out of 10. And really and truly, I feel like that's being nice and everything. The only reason I'm giving it that much is because I do like a few of the characters, new characters that were introduced. And like I said, the animation is decent and everything. And there are a couple of moments that did make me chuckle. The only moment with any of the princesses that I thought was kind of funny and everything, and it was one of the big jokes in the marketing too, was when the princesses are hanging out and Merida starts talking and you can't understand a word she says. Like, she sounds like she's talking in gibberish and everything, and Vanellope's like, I can't understand a word she said, and she's like, it's because she's from the other studio. I will admit that joke does always crack me up. I think that's probably the only joke in the movie that really landed really good for me and everything. But yeah, so this movie just, it's a waste of time. It's a horrible sequel, and easily the biggest crap stain on Disney's animation's history and everything. Like, every movie that has came out before and after it has been way better than this movie. So yeah, so I really did not like Ralph Breaks the Internet. So and I'd even go as far to say that Ralph Breaks the Internet is worse than Cars 2 as far as the sequel goes, because at least Cars 2, they kept the characters in the same vein as they were in the original and everything. They didn't contradict the first one and stuff. So I will say that even though Cars 2 was a terrible movie, at least they had an original idea with that movie. This one, they got as lazy as they could with this movie and totally ruined the first one and everything. And it's hard to watch the first one and enjoy it as much as I used to, because I know what they did with this movie and everything. Like, this is one of those examples of a movie ruining the originality of another one and everything, a sequel ruining the originality of it. And I really feel like this is definitely one of those movies that totally ruined what made the original special. So, and I don't really say that very often either, though, because most of the time I can separate a sequel and its original one, but this is just one of those times I can't, and everything. So yeah. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of Ralph Breaks the Internet. I know I kind of ranted and went on a little bit about this movie, but I just really do not like what they did with this one, and it is such a big disappointment. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of Ralph Breaks the Internet, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.